In the heart of a valley shrouded by towering mountains and dense, mist-laden forests, lay a village that time seemed to have forgotten. Its simple wooden homes lined narrow, cobbled streets, and its people lived quietly, tending to their crops, caring for livestock, and depending on the rhythm of the seasons. There was nothing remarkable about the village to the outside world, yet to those who lived within it, it was their entire universe. Generation after generation had passed in this small, secluded place, where life followed predictable patterns. However, beneath this calm and predictable surface, there existed a quiet longing in the hearts of many villagers, an ache for something more. It was not that they were unhappy with their lives, but the routine of their existence made them wonder if there was more to the world than their narrow horizon allowed. The mountain peaks, so majestic and mysterious, loomed over them, as if hiding secrets just beyond their reach. Among them was a boy named Dara, whose heart was filled with more questions than answers. Dara had always been different from the other children. While his peers seemed content with running in the fields, practicing archery, or learning their father's trades, Dara was always looking up at the sky or staring off into the distance, lost in thought. He had an imagination that stretched far beyond the village boundaries, and in his dreams, he saw lands full of wonders, places where magic flowed as freely as water from a spring. As Dara grew older, his thirst for adventure and knowledge only deepened. He had read the few old books that the village elder, Master Covey, kept in his dusty, ancient study. These books told stories of faraway kingdoms, of legendary heroes who wielded magic, and of hidden treasures that could transform lives. Dara couldn't help but dream that one day he, too, would discover something extraordinary that would change not just his own life, but the lives of everyone in the village. His parents, however, didn't understand his dreams. They were simple folk, farmers who had lived their entire lives in the village, just as their parents had before them. Dara's father, Raden, was a stern but loving man, who believed in hard work and the traditions passed down through generations. His mother, Mira, was kind and gentle, but even she often told Dara to keep his feet on the ground and not to lose himself in daydreams. "Dara, there's nothing wrong with dreaming," she would say while stirring a pot of stew over the fire, "but dreams won't fill your belly or keep you warm during winter. Focus on what's in front of you. Help your father with the fields, and the rest will take care of itself." But Dara could not help himself. Every evening, after his chores were done, he would wander to the edge of the village, sitting beneath an old oak tree at the foot of the mountains. He would watch the sunset over the peaks, painting the sky in hues of gold and crimson, and wonder what lay beyond. His closest friend, Sori, often joined him there. Sori was a year younger than Dara and had always been fascinated by his tales of adventure and magic. Though she was more practical than Dara, she too felt the pull of something greater, a yearning to see what lay outside the confines of their small world. One crisp autumn evening, as the leaves turned amber and the first chill of winter began to creep into the air, something strange happened. Dara had been sitting under the oak tree, lost in thought, when an unfamiliar figure appeared on the horizon, walking down the narrow path that wound through the mountains and led into the village. It was rare for travelers to pass through the village, as it was so remote that few ever stumbled upon it by accident. As the figure drew closer, Dara could see that it was an old man, dressed in tattered robes and leaning heavily on a long wooden staff. His face was weathered and worn, as if he had seen countless years of travel, and his eyes held a wisdom that seemed almost otherworldly. Dara felt a strange sense of anticipation as the man approached, as if his arrival signaled the beginning of something important. The old man entered the village just as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the cobbled streets. The villagers, curious but cautious, watched from their doorways as the stranger made his way to the center of the village square, where the communal fire burned brightly. The village elder, Master Covey, greeted the traveler with a respectful nod. "Welcome, traveler," Covey said in his deep, gravelly voice. "It is not often we receive visitors. You are welcome to share our fire and our food for the night." The old man nodded in gratitude and sat down by the fire. The villagers, ever curious about the outside world, slowly gathered around to listen to the traveler's stories, as was their custom when someone new arrived. Dara and Sori, unable to contain their excitement, sat close to the fire, eager to hear what the old man had to say. The traveler, whose name was revealed to be Yoran, spoke of distant lands and strange sights. He told tales of grand cities built from marble and gold, of vast oceans that stretched farther than the eye could see, and of creatures so fantastical that they defied imagination. The villagers listened in awe, for they had never heard of such wonders. But it was when Yoran began to speak of magic that Dora's heart truly began to race. "There are places in this world," Yoran said, his voice low and mysterious, "where magic flows like a river. In the deepest forest, in the highest mountains, and in the most hidden valleys, you can find wells of power that can grant a person's deepest wish if they are brave enough to seek them." The villagers exchanged uneasy glances. Magic was something they had heard of only in myths and old stories. It was not a part of their everyday lives, and many of them were wary of such things. But Dora's eyes lit up with excitement. Could it be true? Was there really magic out there, waiting to be discovered? After the villagers had dispersed and gone back to their homes, Dara approached Yoran, his heart pounding in his chest. "Sir," Dara said hesitantly, "is it really true? Is there magic that can grant wishes?" Yoran looked at the boy for a long moment, his tired eyes studying him carefully. "Yes, lad," he said softly. "But magic is not something to be taken lightly. Wishes, when granted, can change the course of a person's life, and not always in the way they expect. You must be careful with what you wish for, because once the magic is set in motion, it cannot be undone." Dara's mind raced with possibilities. If he could make one wish, just one, what would it be? He had dreamed of adventure for so long, but now, standing before a man who had seen the world, Dara realized that his greatest wish was not just for himself. He wanted something more. Something that would change the village for the better. A way to bring joy and prosperity to the people he loved. "What would you wish for?" Dara asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Yoran smiled sadly, as if he had been asked this question many times before. "If I were to make a wish, lad, it would be for wisdom. For wisdom is the greatest gift anyone can receive. But tell me, what is it that you would wish for?" Dara thought for a long moment, his mind racing with possibilities. He could wish for riches, for adventure, for anything he desired. But then, he thought of the village. He thought of his parents, of Sori, and of the people who had lived their entire lives in this small, remote place. He thought of their quiet longing for something more, even if they didn't speak of it. "I would wish for something that would change the village," Dara said finally. "Something that would bring happiness to everyone." Yoran's expression grew serious. "Be careful, boy," he warned. "Magic has a way of granting wishes, but not always in the way you expect. You must be certain of what you truly desire." Dara nodded, though he wasn't sure if he truly understood the weight of Yoran's words. The next morning, the village awoke to a sight that no one could have anticipated. In the center of the village square, where there had once been nothing but an open space of dirt and stones, there now stood a well. But it was no ordinary well. Its stones were smooth and gleamed in the early morning light, and the water inside shimmered with an otherworldly glow. The villagers, startled and confused, gathered around the well, murmuring in hushed tones. "How did this get here?" one of the villagers asked, his voice filled with awe. "It must be a gift from the gods," another whispered. The villagers, though cautious at first, were soon drawn to the well's magical allure. It was the children who dared to approach it first, their curiosity outweighing their fear. One of them, a young boy named Patu, dipped a cup into the well and drank from its shimmering waters. What happened next would be talked about for generations to come. Patu, who had always been small and weak, suddenly grew stronger. His frail arms filled with muscle, and his thin frame became sturdy and tall. The villagers gasped in amazement as they watched the transformation. It was a miracle. The well had granted Patu his deepest wish without him even having to speak it aloud. Word of the well's power spread like wildfire through the village, and soon, everyone wanted to drink from it. Some wished for strength like Patu, others for wealth, beauty, or long life. And the well granted their wishes, one by one. For a time, the village was filled with joy and wonder. People were happier than they had ever been before. Crops grew faster and more bountiful, livestock thrived, and the village flourished. But as time passed, something began to change. The wishes that had once brought happiness started to breed something darker within the hearts of the villagers. Where there had once been unity and cooperation, there was now jealousy and greed. Those who had received the most powerful gifts from the well began to look down on those who had received less. The village, once a close-knit community, became divided. Dara watched in horror as the village began to unravel. His wish had come true, but not in the way he had intended. He had wanted to bring happiness to the village, but instead, he had unleashed a force that was tearing it apart. The well, once a source of joy, had become a source of conflict. People fought over who had the right to drink from it and who deserved the most powerful wishes. Friendships were broken, families torn apart, and the village descended into chaos. Dara, filled with guilt and regret, realized that he had to do something to stop the madness. He had been warned by Yoren to be careful with his wish, but he hadn't understood the consequences until it was too late. Desperate to fix the mess he had caused, Dara set out on a journey to find Yoren, hoping that the old traveler could help him undo the damage. He climbed the mountain path, searching for days, until finally, he found the traveler resting in a quiet clearing, as if waiting for him. Yoren looked at Dara with sad eyes. "I warned you," he said softly. "Magic gives, but it also takes. The well has fed on the desires of the villagers, and now it has grown tainted by their greed. The only way to stop it is to undo your wish." Dara's heart sank. "Is there no other way?" he asked. Yoren shook his head. "If you wish to save your village, you must give up everything the well has given. The magic will be gone, and the village will return to what it was before. But the peace that comes will be real, not the false joy created by the well." Dara hesitated. Could he really take away the well and all the miracles it had brought? Would the villagers understand? But deep down, he knew what he had to do. With a heavy heart, he returned to the village and stood before the well. "I made a mistake," Dara said, his voice trembling with emotion. "I wished for something that would bring us happiness, but instead, it has brought only misery. I wish for the magic to be undone." At first, the villagers were silent, shocked by Dara's words. But then, as if in answer to his wish, the well began to glow one last time. The light enveloped the village, and when it faded, the well was no longer magical. The water returned to ordinary water, and the gifts the well had granted vanished. The village was silent in the days that followed. The riches were gone, the strength, the beauty, the power, all of it had disappeared. But something remarkable began to happen. Without the magic of the well, the villagers returned to their old ways. They began to work together again, helping each other, rebuilding their homes, and repairing the bonds that had been broken. Dara, though weighed down by guilt, found solace in the village's newfound peace. He had learned a valuable lesson: happiness could not be wished into existence by magic. It had to be earned, nurtured, and shared through love, cooperation, and kindness. And so, the village flourished, not because of magic, but because of the strength and unity of its people. Dara never wished for anything more, for he had learned that the greatest magic of all was the simple joy of living a good life, surrounded by those you love.